Okay, first of all, I am not going to say hello YouTube, because I'm not talking to YouTube, I'm talking to firearm enthusiasts who may be watching YouTube. I hate when people start their videos, "Hey YouTube!" Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not YouTube. Okay, anyway, that being said, I'm going to do a small series of very basic videos outlining the takedown of some commonly owned pistols, starting with the Taurus 24/7 Pro long slide in .40 caliber, but that doesn't really matter. It's just the Taurus PT 24/7. This should apply to all of them that have the same controls on the side. Before we begin, the firearm has been safety checked. Nothing in the chamber. We will work the action a couple of times. There's no magazine. We'll flip the action a couple of times just for proof. Nothing in it. Okay. To begin, and I'll address this right off the bat to stop any questions coming on. Yes, I put some Williams fire sights on it. That's what you're seeing there. Red in the rear, green in the front, because the Heine straight 8 double dot system with the one in the front and the one in the rear, I hated those ever since day one. It just was not natural, because all of the other sights on all of my other guns are triple dots, and I hated those Heine straight 8 dots that were on there. So that out of the way. Takedown. Safety is off with the slide back, obviously, because you can't have the slide back with the safety on, so that goes without saying. Here you've got your slide catch engaged. That's where you need to be at the full rearward travel of the slide. Takedown pin here. On this model, you rotate it down. They can be a little stiff, but you rotate it down like so. You'll see a little spring in there that keeps tension on it. You'll have to overcome that when you take it out, and when you put it back in, you have to use the design of the pin. As you'll see this pop up, you kind of have to use the pin and that little flat spot on the pin to push that spring down out of the way like so to get it back in. And when you put it back in, it will not bottom. As you can see, as it just came out, it won't bottom. You kind of have to turn it up and down and kind of wiggle it in like so. Then it'll be in, and you're back to where you would be assembled. So anyway, disassembly. As I was saying, disassembly. Swap that down. Pull the pin out. Ease your slide forward. This does require to pull the trigger to release the slide mechanism in order for it to come off. You can't just take it off. You have to pull the trigger. That releases it and allows the slide to come off the front. One thing that I don't particularly care about the 24/7, although overall I absolutely love the firearm. It's 110% reliable, but as you can see, it's got a polymer guide rod, and it doesn't really fit in there. It just kind of sits in there, but once the gun's assembled, it can't go anywhere. It has to stay in place. I do have plans of machining one out of stainless steel to replace this one should the time come, though this thing's had thousands of rounds put through it, and it's none the worse for wear. Seems to be fine. It just doesn't fit in there with any amount of compression, as do the other ones. But anyway, that comes out. Barrel, same way, most other ones. And there are your basic takedown components for cleaning. Assembly, obviously. Set your barrel in. Put your loose, sloppy polymer guide rod and spring assembly back in. Start it back on the frame rails. And I don't know what's going on there, why it doesn't want to go back. Oh, I know why. It's because I'm not holding it perfectly perpendicular, and the slide rod, or the guide rod, did go off to the side, but it won't do that once it's assembled. So you have to hold the thing perfectly perpendicular. And I'm going to leave these in without editing those little seeming mistakes out, because they're something that you may run into during the course of taking your gun apart and putting it back together, that you'll wonder what happened. Well, now you'll know what happened. You'll see how it went together. You got to pull the trigger to get it back off. As long as that thing is down on there, you're fine. It'll slide right on with no problem. But if it's off to the side, if you tried assembling it sideways, you're going to run into trouble. That's what happened right there. And like I say, I'm not going to edit that out. That's a lesson learned for everybody. Alright, put it back on. Slide to the rear, lock it. Make sure your barrel, don't have it there with that peeking down. Got to have your barrel all the way forward so that the rearmost hole is exposed. Barrel all the way forward. Don't get caught up in the trap of putting it together and seeing that hole there and try to go stick your assembly pin back in rearward. And as I showed you before, use the shape of the pin to push the spring out of the way. Put it in, rock it back and forth a little bit. Now you're good to go. Back assembled. Voila.